After doing this one thing for 6 years, I need to make a change. 6 years ago, I left a life in Washington, D.C. and moved to a farm in rural Vermont. And I had no farming experience, but I had the dream of starting a farm one day. Now, as I look at life 6 years later and where I'm at, I have some thoughts and I'd like to share them with you guys today. Good morning, Mr. Toby Dog. Hey, pal. How's it going? Good to see you this morning. Hi, buddy. Now, where's Abby Dog, though? I don't see her. Abby Dog, come! What? Oh no. Abby Dog, did you jump a fence again and end up on the wrong side? Release the Quacken! Even though the Quacken already released themselves. From the ducks, I'm also getting some eggs. So one thing about duck eggs as a business that I never expected is the fact that ducks will scatter their eggs absolutely everywhere. And that can make it a very difficult business to be in. Like, I used to wonder why nobody was in the duck egg business and why it wasn't more popular. But now, after doing this for a few years, I understand why chickens have become the default for the egg industry. Rise and grind, weirdos! You know, one of my biggest changes in how I've thought about my farm over the years is I used to think about it almost entirely functionally and utilitarian, and with a mindset that was very much rooted in my business background of like, gotta think about what's profitable and what's not and cut the waste and really only focus on the things that are making you money. And while I'm here 6 years later to say that that is still extremely important, I think also giving yourself just a little bit of space and flexibility to do things that are weird and different and experimental is kind of where the beauty of it all lies. Like, for example, these weird chickens living in this weird clucky ball house are actually a complete money loser for me on the farm, but they bring me so much happiness and joy that it's one of those things in farm life that is just really, really fun to be able to have and do, and I'm super appreciative of it. And sometimes those experiments won't be profitable, but I actually think that this experiment that you're seeing right down here will be. So this is my catnip patch. I have been growing it now for about 2 years, and last year I harvested a little bit and I made little baggies of dried catnip and gave it all to my friends and they loved it. This year, because I'm able to produce so much, I'm gonna actually grow even more and dry even more and sell it. And it might actually just end up becoming a new regular part of the business of our farm. And a big part of that is to be flexible and find new ways for your farm to be able to support you. Abby Dog, have you been sampling from my catnip patch? It looks like Toby Dog was actually sampling from the grass over there, but I definitely know who will really like a sample of this. Ginny Barn Cat, look what I got. Yeah, you like it because it's fresh. And here comes our farm's old man at, I think he's about 11 years old now. We've got Pablo Barn Cat. You know, Pablo was actually the first animal on our farm. And you can actually see her up there creeping out of the window of my office is Lil Barn Cat, who was the second animal on our farm. Ginny didn't come until 2021 with her mom, the dearly departed Molly Murder Mittens. It's been interesting because it started all with these guys and it's expanded so broad and so wide. It's kind of crazy to think about the changes. Morning, pigs! For those of you guys keeping track of the time, they're gonna still be in this pen for, I don't know, probably about another 10, 12 days before I start to let them fully free range. If you didn't see the video I made about getting these piglets, just the short answer is these panels help train them not to run away from the electric fencing. And then once they're trained with the electric fencing, they'll be roaming over through our woods over the course of this summer until the fall. And yes, I fully admit that that last video about the pigs was pure chaos. It's okay, guys, it's okay. I'm just coming in for some fresh bedding. Make sure things don't get too gross in here. Still looks like they got plenty of food. Are you guys still super nervous around me? I think eventually we're gonna be friends, but right now they're not huge fans of me. All right, you guys keep napping and crapping, and eventually you're gonna be able to run free. Because I'm a newbie farmer and because I'm just starting out, I wanna be very careful about trying not to get too far in over my head. That means not having too many types of animals. So this year, I plan to introduce just one type of animal to the farm. You know, one thing that I thought that I should do as a theory back when I was starting this farm 6 years ago was only start with one animal, not try to do too many animals at once. And I am actually 100% glad that I went with that plan, and I've really stuck to that advice for the most part. And while there were definitely times that I've struggled, I'm glad that I didn't do too much at once because that would have probably tipped me over the edge. Like, I had always dreamed of having ducks and geese and chickens and cattle, even pigs, and like having all of these things on the farm. But the thing I struggled with was how to do it in stages, and I pretty much just did it where each year I added a new animal to the farm and then focused on getting better. So the big task on the farm today is it's finally time for me to move my bull and my steer out to pasture. I have a whole bunch of other cattle at this point, all females, and it's still too early in the year to want to mix the bull with the cows, but I do want to get him out on fresh grass, and so that's what we're doing today. It's gonna be a little bit complicated though, because what I'm gonna try to do is basically walk him up this alleyway that I created last night that you see behind me, and just bring him up here. I already did this once with my cows. Now it's just for the matter of these two, but these two can get a little spunky at times, so wish me luck. All right, boys, you look very excited and ready to go. Right there with the pink ear tag is Macho Man, and this fella right here, he is Joey Ramone. He's the steer. Now, the first difficult part about all of this is I just don't want them to flatten me when I let them out. Okay, boys, you're free. I know, fresh grass, you're excited. Like I said, this is gonna be an activity that requires patience. Come on, pal. Up the hill, up the hill. All right, now the next step is I gotta close off this lane. So what this lets me do is electrify the entire route up there. So much good grass here. Like there's not even a reason to rush them, I guess. So we'll just patiently go up the hill. At least I don't have to trim the fence line today. Up the hill, let's go. This is clearly not something I grew up knowing how to do. Even when I first moved to this farm, I had no clue what this would be like. But I feel like I've improved over the years with this combination of practice and willingness to listen and willingness to make mistakes. I'm not all that good at this, but I feel like I'm better than I was. If I actually had two people, the easiest way to move them up there would be have one person hold one end of this fence and the other hold the other, and it'll just pretty quickly walk them up. Unfortunately, I'm flying solo here today, so this is the way we're gonna go. Come on. Come on, guys. Keep going. Heading up the hill. Whoa, easy. Now this right here is the most dangerous part about this job. Joey and Randy like to fight with each other occasionally, and that can get a little bit dangerous. That's the right idea, Joey. Push them up. Everybody keep moving. You know, one thing I expected to happen at some point since starting this farm was I'd wake up one day and I'd feel like, gosh, yep, this is a real farm. We finally turned this into a farm. Quite honestly, it seems like that day never ever comes. And it took me a good long while to realize that it's more on me than anything else. Like that sense of imposter syndrome that I feel is never gonna be cured by validation from somebody else. And it's always gonna be stoked by stimulation from other people. But the only time you ever resolve it is by how you personally perceive yourself and think of yourself. And that's the only time you're ever gonna not feel that sense of imposter syndrome. So if you're out there growing microgreens in the closet of your city apartment, or tomatoes on your rooftop like I did back when I lived in Brooklyn, or even if you just have a couple of acres and some chickens and some goats, you know, if you're out there and you're finding some way to produce food or materials like fabrics or fibers for people, and you're selling it and you're making money, or even if you're selling it and you're not making money, in my book, that right there makes you a farmer. We're almost up there. I swear, it's grass Valhalla. Whoa, this is the hardest part. Gotta convince them to both go in the gate. Right now, they're just getting violent with each other. Whoa, 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 whoa. Easy, boys, easy. Right through that gate, Macho Man. That's what we want to see. That's what we want to see, yeah. Whoa, 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 whoa. Don't slip through that gate. I was just about to close it. No, no, no. You stay on the other side of that. Plenty of grass on this side, okay? That was a close call. Get this turned on here, and I'm gonna go grab their water. I'll be back. Come on, Abby, lead the way. Let's see how the boys are doing. Come on. No, no, Macho Man. You got to respect that fence line. You know, one question people often ask is, am I afraid of the Highlands and their horns? And the answer is, I'm not afraid of them, I just respect them. I also don't do anything crazy like burn them off or cut them off, because the animal actually uses them and they're really important. And part of taking good care of Scottish Highland cattle is letting them keep their horns. You know, that's actually one of the things that surprised me most about farming, that I didn't expect to like so much, but has become probably my favorite part. You know, I expected to like working outside and trying to do projects that are like physical and like tangible and real. You know, I expected to like having my own business and being my own boss. I expected to enjoy seeing progress and like, you know, kind of making a plan and then seeing it come to life over a span of several years. But the one thing I absolutely did not expect to like this much about farming is like the caretaking and nurturing portion of it. And without a doubt, working with the animals and taking care of the animals is like far and away my favorite part. And if you had asked me 6 years ago what would be my favorite part, I did not expect it to be that. The hose is too short. I'm sorry, boys. I failed you. I just had to make some minor fencing adjustments and give them a little extra space. And now their water is flowing well. Drink up, Joseph. There's plenty of it for you. Honestly, making small adjustments when you screw something up has probably been the most important lesson I've had since coming up here and starting this farm. Very rarely have I ever gotten anything right the first time around, and that iterative process of learning and trying again is really one of the more important parts about it all. So now their watering system is on these water lines that run through most of this pasture. Right now I'm in the process of actually adding more water lines, and I'll probably even show you by the end of this video how I do that. Macho Man, are you trying to tip over the water? Don't do that, buddy. So yesterday I finished putting up this cross fence right here, which runs the entire length of this pasture. And I started putting in the water lines. So like, for example, the water that you just saw me pouring comes through like this black piping and these little hydrant cap thingies. And so I'm putting probably about, I don't know, I think it's about 12 of them all the way up and down this fence line here today. But first, I gotta move my cows. Hey, cows! Come on, cows! Fresh grass, come on! Fresh grass, come on! So yeah, I've been raising this herd of mostly Scottish Highland cattle for, gosh, almost 3 years now. I guess it's 2.5 years to be accurate. I added Charolais earlier this year, so it's not just Scottish Highland anymore. I currently have 7 cows plus 2 mature heifers up here this year. We've had 5 calves born so far this year. I lost 2 of them to something which I'm actually getting more information. I might have some info in a future video for you guys on that. But yeah, it's super satisfying having them out here. It definitely is everything I kind of dreamed about when I look back on videos that I made, say, 6 years ago. I don't know, I'm just super, super grateful. You'll notice too, I've got the cattle over here today. They're gonna actually move over there tomorrow. That's gonna put 2 different fences between them and the bull, which will give me a little bit more peace of mind. I'll probably even add 1 more just polywire fence just for extra peace of mind and help me sleep better at night. I'm actually really glad that I was able to get the cattle out here and in this corner of the pasture with this tree, because it's gonna be a hot day today. I think they will genuinely appreciate the shade. It's supposed to be like, I don't know, 85, which is very hot for northern Vermont this time of year. And I'm currently in the process of building a new shade structure that can follow them along pasture, but it's not quite ready yet. And so this tree kind of saves my butt right now. I am very grateful for the trees. But would you look at that? They've already scraped off so much hair. They shed a lot this time of year, and so these trees come in handy that way too. They'll break these lower branches, or they've already broken a lot of these lower branches over past years, and so what's nice is they'll come in here, trim the tree, keep it growing tall, drop some fertilizer, and then they won't be back here for, I don't know, probably another 60 days. And they're probably only gonna make it to this part of the pasture twice this year, so the tree won't take too much abuse. Oh, you like that, huh, Amelia? So Amelia is probably the next cow that's gonna give birth, which should actually be pretty soon. So this right here is the water line that I gotta finish installing today. So I'll have some new coworkers joining me, watching and hanging out. I think after 6 years of farming, I've come to this conclusion that it is time for me to make a change. And while I love the farm life and I love what I'm doing, I don't want it to end, I do know that the things that I started out doing probably haven't completely worked out the way I wanted them to. And sometimes being able to admit that what you're doing isn't working and you do need to make a change and you can't keep going on forever like this it's actually one of the hardest things to come to the conclusion of. But after thinking about this a lot and talking about it with my wife a lot and really trying to figure out like what are we gonna do with the farm and what's next, there is one thing that I started actually even more than 6 years ago. It was actually 2017 with the planting of the trees. That, I don't know, it hasn't gone exactly the way I hoped. I'm still kind of trying to figure out what I want to do, but I've come to this point where I'm realizing I want to change some things up. And so specifically, the area that does need a change is over in the permaculture orchard. There we go. I think I only have 8 more to go. Uh-oh, Abby dog. Looks like those calves are hanging out in your doghouse again. Wanna go say hi? It's okay, Abby dog. I'll still be your friend. I have this crazy vision for what I want this place to be. Picture it with me now. These little seedling trees actually being semi-mature. Picture there being ducks kind of wandering around out back here. I keep them in like a chicken tractor that I can pull myself or have, you know, pulled with an ATV. I move it around on a regular basis. That serves as the duck housing. I use some polywire fencing and I put it all around a certain area. I move that area every couple of days or so. The ducks are out back here working. They're picking at the insects. They're picking at the weeds. They're pooping all over the place. Becomes this nice symbiotic relationship between the shrubbery I got going on back here and ultimately what happens with the ducks. Good afternoon, girls. Or I guess I should say good evening. Hey, Baby B. Hey, Alice. I know Baby B wants to say hi. Alice is a little bit more skittish still. This is my heifer zone. The heifers that I'm not going to breed this year, which basically consists of these two, I'm keeping separated from everybody else, particularly the bull. But here it is, that very same permaculture orchard space, almost 7 years later, I guess 6+ years later. It's funny, some parts are better than I expected it would be at this point. Other parts are maybe not quite as good. As long as we don't have a late frost, this apple tree right here should be getting some apples. We've got black locust trees that are 20, 30 feet tall at this point. Here's a chestnut tree that I have high hopes for, and just as it's starting to get its leaves, and hopefully come, you know, September, October, I might even get a few nuts off of this one. But then for whatever reason, this black locust looks like it's just dead. There's a whole heck of a lot of mulberry trees over there that will definitely produce fruit this fall. And when I think about all of my farming dreams that I had 6 years back, the maturation of this space was one of them. But I'm realizing now, after 6 years of farming and working this space, that I need to do something different, because the vision I had in my head, while it is true that I have ducks and geese run through here, and they'll probably start running through here in about a week or two, and I've got large grazing animals like cattle running through, the practicality of using this as a grazing space is less than ideal. The way that some of the plants have survived has been kind of mixed. And I think really important to note, a lot of the cattle have done some pretty heavy damage to the trees. You know, even though I run them through this area and I'm moving them pretty much weekly through these lanes over the course of the summer, they will sometimes escape and they will rub up against trees, and all it takes is like one afternoon of an escape and they can like destroy 3, 4, 5 trees. And after grazing the cattle in this space for that long, those losses can start to add up. And then probably my biggest mistake with this area here is that I created these swales and berms, where there's a berm on this side, and then I have a swale, and then I have more trees over on this side. You know, the act of creating this space makes it so much harder to maintain, because if you look at an aerial view, you notice it's very curved because we dug these swales on contour, and it kind of winds around, which makes it very hard to do things like put up temporary fencing to move the animals. And given the extreme height of these berms, it makes it pretty much impossible to mow and mulch and do a lot of the tree management activities in a very fast and efficient way. And so I definitely kind of regret what I've done with this space, but at the same time, I knew what I knew and I dreamed of what I dreamed, and some of those things work out and some of them won't. The one really interesting thing though is to see the different life that's starting to spring up within these swales. Like you have a pine tree here, got a little tiny baby maple tree right here. At some point, I want to make a video where I burrow to the center of that woodchuck hole and see what's at the bottom of it. You've got things like birch trees springing up here. Here's some sumac. And you know, my dream was never to have like lots of chestnut crops or lots of apples. It was actually probably more to have a supply of food to feed my livestock on top of the grass. But what I'm realizing now is I kind of accidentally created some hedgerows within this space, and trying to figure out maybe what I do more to nurture this is what I think I'm gonna try to spend more time doing, and I'll probably get some help and advice from folks to do that. But the reality is, after doing this one thing for 6 years, I need to make a change. And I feel like that's an important lesson with this farm that I keep getting hit over the head with over and over and over again, right? Like, I started this farm with the dream of having the main product be duck eggs, and actually, agriculturally speaking, tree seedlings and goose byproducts and cattle stuff are really the main things. And probably later this year, pork is actually gonna be one of the more lucrative things that our farm does. And that willingness to adapt was not something I was very open to or thought that it would happen if I look back 6 years ago. But I think about how did I end up still doing the same thing 6 years later? Really, that willingness to be adaptable is arguably the most important ingredient. That and making videos for things like YouTube. So yeah, there is that too. Thanks for watching, everybody.